Well, a leading expert on crime says what you're about to see is proof of imposter police officers working on the streets of Nashville.
Yeah, so the experts say they look the part, wearing vests and badges that read police, and they're often working off-duty as security.
What Chief Investigative Reporter Jeremy Finley just obtained today shows why there is such a concern.
A top law enforcement attorney says what you're about to see is a public safety issue. Like attorneys and doctors, police officers have to have a license, often referred to as certification. It proves they've gone through the right training and ethics to be police officers. It's why so many officers proudly show their thin blue lines on their cars. But what we found tonight is instead the thin blurred line. It's a Friday at the Opry Mills Mall, and working security alongside all the people wearing vests and badges that read police is Nick Jordan. That's him in the middle, dressed as same as the others, wearing a gun, even with a yellow patch that reads police. But listen to what he says when I ask him his police status. You have on your police badge. Are you a police officer?
I'm not allowed to answer any questions with media related. I'm sorry.
And we have a lot of questions for Jordan. In 2018, after earning his police certification, he quit the Shelbyville Police Department after being recommended for termination, accused of unwanted touching. According to the state, when you leave a department, you lose your certification until you're rehired at another department. And guess what happened in 2021? He was arrested for impersonation of a police officer because he was using blue lights to direct traffic. When questioned about it, Jordan admitted he was not law enforcement. Last year, he pleaded guilty to the crime, but you won't find it on his record. It's been expunged. Last Friday, we found him wearing a police patch. And he's not alone. A WSMV4 investigation found other men not certified as police officers wearing police patches and badges, exposing that you can get away with needing no state certification, and the public still believes you're a police officer working off-duty.
This is a public safety issue.
David Rabin represents law enforcement officers and is a former district attorney.
You want to be sure that when you say, officer, can you help me? Or officer, I need help. That person's a real police officer. These folks are indistinguishable from real police officers.
See for yourself. Earlier this month, we went undercover in downtown Nashville and found Mason Schweppe alongside two off-duty police officers who showed us their licenses. And like his peers, Schweppe is wearing badges that read police. Paperwork for the state, though, shows he has no license to be a police officer and has not informed the state he works for any police force, only security. But here's what he says when I asked him. Are you a police officer, though?
Yeah, we're all doing off-duty work.
And remember, he's not a certified police officer in Tennessee. Are you a certified police officer?
Yeah.
I looked up your background, and you are not a certified police officer.
But I was at one time, though. Not in Tennessee, though.
You said that you're certified, and you're actually not in the state of Tennessee.
Correct.
But you're wearing a badge that says police.
Private duty, though.
Have you ever heard of a private duty police officer?
There's no such thing.
And a big sticking point, the word police on their uniforms. In an email to WSMV4 Investigates, the agency that certifies police officers wrote, as far as uniforms, state laws have prohibitions related to the style of uniforms and badges worn by security guards or use of the word police on the uniform.
They're violating the law. The harm, Jeremy, is that the public is confused. The other police officers that may need assistance, they may be confused.
And then there's Chris Tubbs. I'm taking care of these people. Who on his many TikToks wears police t-shirts and vests, working downtown Nashville and at Opry Mills. And like the others, he has no license to be a police officer. Just today, we received this, a complaint filed with the state program that regulates security guards. It reads that Tubbs is pulling cars over in his privately owned vehicle with blue lights on, impersonating an officer. I reached Tubbs by phone this week and asked about the TikTok videos. When you were wearing the uniforms in 2022, you were not a certified police officer. His answer, no. I mean, sure wasn't. Not going to lie to you about it. Not going to lie to nobody about it. I did it for the money. I'll be honest with you. In a city where certified police officers rushed towards a bombing on Christmas Eve, where certified police officers risk their own lives during a school shooting, Rabin believes these men are risking criminal charges.
If you're running around with a weapon on, bulletproof vest with the thing says police on it and a badge, you're violating Tennessee law. There's no question about it.
So you're probably asking what we are. Don't security companies have to verify that they're using certified officers if they're going to wear those police vests and patches? Well, that's the kind of question we're putting to security companies. We're digging, and we'll bring you more as soon as we get answers.
Well, I had a problem with this guy here a couple weeks ago. And
On February 9th,
flashing red and blues he had in the back of this RAV4 that he drives.
Chad Hayes called Watertown police to let them know he'd just seen the driver of this RAV4. Hayes says that driver flashed police lights at him a month earlier, but that driver was not a police officer.
I'm about to endanger somebody's life.
That driver is Chris Tubbs, the same person a WSMV4 investigation revealed is not a licensed police officer, but posts pictures of himself, including in downtown Nashville, wearing police identification like this vest.
What did you think when you saw
I mean, it really does upset me because it's really dangerous.
Did they look like police lights?
Oh, yeah, they're the full red and blue police lights.
Hayes tells WSMV4 Investigates he first encountered Tubbs on I-40 on January 12th, and the Tubbs driving the RAV4 became aggravated when Hayes tried to pass him.
Jerked his wheel back to the left while flashing his little red and blue lights out the back window at me.
Hayes says Tubbs followed him to this church parking lot.
I asked him what agency you work for. He says, that's not relevant at this time. I pulled my phone out. I said, it sure is. He goes, why is that? I said, because you're about to get reported.
He saw what I was doing. He sped right out of the parking lot.
Yes, it's impersonating a police officer.
Assistant Chief Henderlight was there when Hayes reported seeing the RAV4 again. Henderlight then made a troubling realization. The man Hayes described was the same man who once worked for Watertown as a reserve officer. Small towns can hire people to work part-time reserve officer shifts, even if they aren't trained law enforcement or certified. But needing full-time officers, Henderlight sent Tubbs to be trained as a police officer.
Sent to the academy where he just wasn't successful in completing the academy.
So Tubbs resigned, never becoming a certified officer. Years later, Henderlight says he was sent this picture showing Tubbs wearing police identification while working security.
And I was like, I was flabbergasted.
Mr. Tubbs, this is Jeremy Finley again with Channel 4 News.
We reached Tubbs by phone, who agreed to answer our questions, but not broadcast his voice.
As I'd like to do an interview with you, try to get your side of the story.
His response, I've never done anything like that in my life. He's, talking about Hayes, a damn liar. I don't care what he says. It was not me. I've never pulled anybody over. I ain't that damn stupid.
Two insiders of a Middle Tennessee security company are coming forward tonight saying you're being deceived about who is and who isn't a certified police officer in Nashville.
Now, certified means someone has a license to be a police officer in the state.
Yeah, Chief Investigative Reporter Jeremy Finley first exposed men without certification, identifying themselves as police. Jeremy, you've now found that they all worked at different times for the same company.
Yeah, that's right. A security company with a contract to provide security at a popular shopping destination and hired by the Nashville Downtown Partnership, a security company that two former employees say is deceiving the public and businesses. It is the latest tonight in our thin, blurred line investigation. Guns, a bulletproof vest, a hat, and shirt reading police. It's what Lebanon police say Tyler Shawver was wearing when he was arrested on March 15th, 2020, charged with impersonating a police officer.
Police are looking for people who may have been pulled over by this guy.
WSMV4 reported on Shawver in March 2020. Listen.
They say he was caught on camera going around town in a white Dodge pickup, pulling people over. He had blue lights.
A complaint filed with the state reads Shawver was apprehended wearing a police-type uniform. According to multiple sources, that patch on Shawver's police shirt reads Police Off-Duty, Solaren, Risk Management. State records show at the time of his arrest, he was employed with Solaren. And Shawver's not the only former or current Solaren employee. Take a look. Nick Jordan, not certified law enforcement, convicted in 2021 of impersonating a police officer. But WSMV4 Investigates captured him wearing a police patch at the Opry Mills Mall just 2 weeks ago, working security for Solaren. And Chris Tubbs, not certified by the state, under investigation for impersonating a police officer, but showing himself on social media wearing police identification. Look closely. There's a Solaren patch.
They're impersonating police officers.
WSMV4 Investigates spoke to not just one.
Nobody is doing anything about it.
But two former Solaren employees.
Why did you agree to talk about this?
Right and wrong.
Comes down to that.
It's all about that.
Both say Solaren does hire certified officers like themselves for off-duty security. But they say the company also hires people who are not certified officers and allows them to wear police identification.
I think somebody better get a handle on that company pretty quick.
What's the concern for the average guy out there about this?
If you are downtown or anywhere and you need help and you see someone in a police uniform, you automatically think this guy or this girl is trained, they're going to give me the appropriate care, they're going to help me, and many of these people just don't have the tools to do that.
Along with working the mall, WSMV4 Investigates documented Solaren employees not certified, but wearing police identification working downtown. In fact, Solaren is contracted with an LLC created by the Nashville Downtown Partnership to provide additional security and protective services. It's signed by Solaren's Chief Executive Officer, Jack Bird. According to the state, Jack Bird is not a certified police officer either. But WSMV4 Investigates obtained this photo of Bird wearing a police vest. On Facebook, he posts pictures of himself identifying as police. David Rabin, a top law enforcement attorney, tells WSMV4 Investigates that only certified police officers should wear police identification while working off-duty jobs.
You cannot have a person who's not post-certified come into Nashville and wear police on their chest and dress up like they're a real police officer.
If you have no affiliation to law enforcement, you have no business wearing police on your shirt.
In these emails, you can see Bird agreed to an interview with WSMV4 Investigates, but then backed out. Among our questions for Bird, why allow this? These former employees say they know why. Security companies can charge more to clients if they advertise using off-duty certified police. But in these cases, former employees say Solaren Security looked like police, but were something else.
It's sickening that people are allowed to come and just slap it on and reap the benefits that police officers who actually worked for that title are getting. It's terrible.
Like, I'm a convicted felon, and I know what impersonating a police officer is.
Yeah, that's a felon coming forward tonight saying she was allowed to wear badges and vests identifying herself as police.
Yeah, she says the security company that allowed it is the same company accused of putting imposter police officers on the streets of Nashville. Our chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley continues to uncover new developments in his thin blurred line investigation.
Yeah, Jeremy, everything you found, gosh, this might be the most astonishing.
Yeah, it might be, Lauren. The convicted felon you're about to hear from came to us after seeing our investigations into people who are not state-certified law enforcement, but are still wearing law enforcement identification. Some of them have been arrested for impersonating police officers, something this felon worried she, too, could be arrested for as well.
Nina Beckman knew she was taking a risk, working as a security guard for the company Solaren.
Just to clarify, you're a convicted felon.
Yes.
And you made that clear to them.
Yes, they knew.
Her criminal history includes felonies, her mugshot easily found. Look at the state law. Felons aren't allowed to be security guards until 5 years after their sentence ends. Beckman's sentence ended in 2018. But if you read her work orders with Solaren, they show 2021. In addition to that, the state requires you must have a license to be a security guard.
I've never in my life had a security license.
Why would they even risk putting someone with your criminal history in a job like that?
I think that he just wanted people to fill his contracts. He wanted the money. He wanted the money just like I wanted the money.
He is Jack Bird, the owner of Solaren Risk Management, a security company working throughout downtown Nashville and the Opry Mills Mall. The same company revealed in a series of WSMV4 investigations for employing people who are not state-certified law enforcement. But we found them still wearing police identification. Some of them even arrested or are under investigation for impersonating police officers. Beckman says she too was allowed to wear police badges and vests.
Be it a badge that said police across the front or a brass silver badge.
Did you think this seems wrong?
Oh, yeah, I knew it was. I'm a convicted felon and I know what impersonating a police officer is.
She says when she wore the identification as an off-duty police officer, the vests and badges were given to her at events and then taken away. If someone had been in a real emergency,
oh yeah,
and they came to you seeking help, would you have been able to help
well,
them?
I would have dialed 911 with my phone. I couldn't pick up a radio and say, hey, you know, this is Officer such and such, come get this person that's hurt.
Beckman says after seeing our investigations, she wanted to come forward to show that if a felon can look like a police officer, anyone can.
I didn't understand how we were getting away with it. But it was good money. I hope I don't go to jail after this interview.
Beckman says she has to keep a good sense of humor about it, seeing how the other employees were arrested or are under investigation. She says she never carried a weapon while working security and eventually was let go after being injured on the job. Excuse me, a spokeswoman for Solarian emailed in the last few hours denying that Beckman ever worked security for the company, writing that Solarian is proud to state that it is a second chance employer and engages returning citizens only when they are qualified to work in specifically designated positions. Maurice?
Well, Jeremy, so does Solarian say they did not know she was working security?
Well, they did, and they said that she did it without their knowledge. That doesn't quite explain, though, how she had the uniform. I want you to look at this. This is one of Solarian's own work orders, and you can clearly read there by customer signature, it reads security, no signature. We'll keep asking the company how it is that all this keeps happening under their watch. Do you feel your police department is following the law?
I don't think they're following the law.
That is the mayor of the Robertson County town of Millersville saying his own police department needs to be investigated. We first told you last night about the resignation of Millersville police chief and assistant chief. Both have been criticized by the state commission that oversees police officers, as neither are state-certified police officers.
And both have been linked to a company accused of hiring imposter police officers in our thin blurred line investigations. Those resignations were confirmed just hours after our chief investigative reporter started asking questions about a series of photos. And Jeremy, what do these photos have to do with this police department?
Well, Marius, you're about to see them for yourself. The mayor says these photos show not only an inappropriate use of a Millersville police car, but a potentially dangerous situation with a pistol left unsecured in the car's front seat.
This photo was the final straw for Millersville Mayor Tommy Long.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
A Millersville unmarked police car parked in a garage in downtown Nashville with a boot on it. A fine reading the parking fee wasn't paid. But look closely. In the front seat, you can see the handle of a pistol. A car, the mayor says, that had no reason to be in Nashville. A taxpayer-funded car, he says, driven by Assistant Police Chief Glenn Allred.
He takes the vehicle and uses it as a personal vehicle.
But we noticed something when we came here to Millersville Police. This is where the police chief parks, and this is the vehicle that's parked here. And you might notice this is the same license plate as the car that was booted in downtown Nashville.
As soon as I can, call you back.
So we called Police Chief Melvin Brown, and when he didn't answer, went inside the police department. That's when a lieutenant came out to talk to us, and I asked him about whose car this is. Listen.
Is that your car?
No, that's the assistant chief's car.
As we continued to wait for the chief, city manager Scott Avery walked out and said no one would be talking to us.
But I have several questions, and among them, why this police vehicle had a boot on it in downtown Nashville. Do you know why that happened?
I've already told you, we're not going to give you an interview. You can keep asking the questions. We have nothing to hide. Put it in writing.
A few hours after we left Millersville, the resignations of the police chief and assistant chief were confirmed. Allred's resignation letter, reading in part, "The reason for my resignation is the ongoing and relentless harassment through false allegations directed at myself, the chief of police, the city manager, and our officers."
You know, if you're not in compliance, you're not in compliance.
The resignations come as the Post Commission, which oversees police officers in the state, heard from their own investigator last week that both Allred and Brown continue to work full-time as police officers, even though neither are state-certified police. When Post first learned they were uncertified earlier this year, they ordered both men to work part-time until they could earn certification. Upon hearing from their investigator that both were still working full-time?
If the district attorney general's watching, these are illegal actions. And when a district attorney general doesn't take action, unfortunately, like in many other states, the governor of the state has to take action, or the state attorney general.
We asked the city manager to confirm how often the two have been working.
I am simply asking to find out whether the police chief and the assistant chief are working full-time.
Put it in writing. You can do it on your phone to my email address. My card's right there.
Answers the mayor of the town wants as well.
You're the mayor. What do?
We probably need to go higher, because it's like me knocking my head against the wall. I'm not getting any results.
All right, so you heard the city manager just then ask me that I put questions in writing, so I did, and here are his responses. Question, I asked for details about the booted police vehicle with that unsecured pistol. He said he'd ask the chief and get back to me, but that it had nothing to do with their resignations, that they actually resigned earlier that week. Question, have both the chief and the assistant chief been working full-time? He said the assistant chief has been working part-time, and that the chief had been on full-time but on light duty for a shoulder injury and has not conducted law enforcement duties for the last several months.
We cannot allow this to continue.
In his last interview before his unexpected death, a state lawmaker called for legislative action after a series of WSMV4 investigations. We showed it to you, people looking like police officers but aren't state-certified law enforcement.
We've also learned the State Department of Commerce and Insurance has launched 4 separate investigations after seeing our stories.
Wow, this is all a result of what our chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley has been exposing in his thin, blurred line investigation. Jeremy.
Well, Tracy, what we know to be his last interview before his death, Representative Bill Beck told us 2 weeks ago that he was concerned about what our investigations had uncovered and wanted the legislature to take action.
Tonight, WSMV4 Investigates has confirmed the 4 investigations underway focus on the people in the pictures and video we obtained. People all wearing police identification, like vests that read police and badges that also read police. But none are state-certified law enforcement, meaning they don't have licenses to be officers. You can see our stories are used as evidence for sparking the investigations.
We cannot allow this to continue.
State Representative Bill Beck says our investigations show the public is being deceived.
If they're walking down the street and they have an emergency or they're being attacked, they look over and they see the police and they think that these people are going to help them.
According to Commerce and Insurance's open investigations, investigators are already tracking down details, including about the security company Solaren. We first showed you how 4 of the people who aren't state-certified law enforcement but wore police identification are all former or current employees of that company. Emails to the state from another security company read, quote, "We have been hearing about Solaren Risk Management hiring guys who are not law enforcement officers for some time now. Their patch has the word police with their security company name, making it appear that they are a law enforcement agency." The assistant chief of Watertown, where Chris Tubbs once worked as a reserve officer, wrote to the state that Tubbs resigned after his inability to complete the academy. I have since had many concerns about him wearing police equipment. We found that Tubbs posted a photo of himself wearing police identification, working for Solaren.
But you come to Nashville, you have no credentials. You have no ability to be wearing police across your chest.
Beck says the legislature must now examine if people have found a gray area in the law, thinking they can wear police identification but not be certified.
No doubt that somebody has learned that they can go into this gray area and have these people who are not post-certified out on the streets of Nashville.
We reached out to both Byrd and his attorney, but did not receive a response by our deadline. Given Representative Beck's unexpected death, it's unclear now what will happen with his calls for the legislature to look into this, but we will keep you posted.
I can already tell there's monkey business going on, and I'm sick of it.
You can hear the frustration from a state commission in charge of the oversight of police officers.
Yeah, so the reason they're angry, top law enforcement in a Middle Tennessee town was working without state certification. Chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley found there is so much more to this story. Jeremy, what now?
Well, that's right, Lauren. What this commission is upset about is exactly what we uncovered in our thin, blurred line investigation. People who aren't state certified law enforcement looking and acting like law enforcement. In some cases, people have been arrested for impersonating police officers. So consider that when you watch this.
These laws are not going to be violated.
That's Post Commissioner Chad Parton.
This is serious business.
Clearly upset with the city of Millersville in this March meeting. They've uncovered that Millersville's police chief and assistant chief are both uncertified, meaning neither are licensed to be officers, and both were acting full-time as law enforcement.
I can already tell there's monkey business going on, and I'm sick of it.
Why should the average person be concerned if someone is or isn't certified if they're wearing a law enforcement badge?
I think making that very clear is very important, not only for the public to be safe, but also for those in law enforcement, because they want the public to know, I'm a police officer, I have the right to tell you to do this.
And among the Millersville police force was Jack Byrd. Here's his swearing in oath as a police officer in November 2022. He's also not certified law enforcement. There is no public record of him ever being trained as law enforcement. And look at this. An investigator with the State Post Commission showed up on February 23rd to investigate the uncertified officers there. The very day before, February 22nd, Jack Byrd resigned from Millersville Police. And there's more. Byrd is also the CEO of Solaren Risk Management, a security company. You may remember we uncovered in April that Solaren employed at different times men who were not state certified. But we found all of them wearing police identification. In fact, we found 3 of Solaren's former or current security guards looked so much like police, each were charged with or are currently under investigation for impersonation of a police officer.
These security people that are not licensed are wearing police badges. Is that a line they shouldn't cross?
I tend to think that it is. I think that we should try and preserve the line as best we can between those who are acting in their official capacity as a police officer and those who are not.
And the connections keep coming. The current Millersville police chief, found to be uncertified, is named in this 2021 complaint to the state as scheduling Solaren employees at the company. The current assistant chief, found to be uncertified in Millersville, is seen in this picture with Byrd with a Solaren background. And the former Millersville police chief, Dustin Carr, is seen in this Facebook picture last month as an employee of Solaren. Because he left Millersville, he lost his certification to be an officer. But look, in that picture, he's also wearing a vest, identifying as police. So why even risk the appearance of employing people who aren't certified identifying as police? Former Solaren employees say it's all to boost the company's numbers.
They needed bodies in spots, and they would rather fill the body with somebody who doesn't belong than lose the money. I know that they are well aware of state laws, and I know that they are well aware of what they can and cannot do. It needs to stop.
Okay, Jeremy, questions, so many questions. How can someone who's not certified be granted police powers even as a reserve employee?
Well, Lauren, it all depends on if the employee is full-time or what's called reserve. In Jack Byrd's case, he was a reserve officer. State law allows small departments to hire anyone, regardless of experience, to be reserve officers. The difference is when officers work full-time and aren't certified, or again, when uncertified people wear identification as police.
Okay, right there you're hearing what people in one Middle Tennessee county say is not only a nuisance, but it's dangerous.
Especially because they say they're finding bullets outside of their homes after they got a new neighbor just last summer, and they asked our chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley to come and see what they say is really going on.
This was the first one that I found.
It's become a family affair for Andy No.
I could hear bullets going through the branches, and then I heard one whiz by me.
He found 2 bullets off his garage.
About 3 foot off the corner of my house.
Brother-in-law Frank discovered this one close to his house next door.
It's kind of like being in a war zone.
And brother-in-law Dallas isn't picking up bullets, but rather the sounds of gunshots.
You scared to even have you and your wife sitting on the deck. You don't know which way the next round's going.
The families in Wilson County are used to the sounds of shooting from hunting, but they say this is different.
It's a danger. I mean, it's just a totally dangerous for everybody.
Here's the family's property, and here's how close it is to a stretch of residential land. You can see right there the land has been cleared. A closer look from the ground shows targets torn apart by gunfire. The sheriff's office was called at first, but incident reports show the shooting was done in a safe manner. But then residents decided they would document what they say is really going on.
I think he's turned it into his own personal training ground.
He is Jack Bird, the owner of the property. If the name sounds familiar, it's because he owns the company Solaren. A series of WSMV4 investigations revealed the company either employed or employs people who wore identification as police but aren't certified law enforcement. In a signed affidavit to Wilson County sent this week, Bird wrote that at no time has the property ever hosted a sanctioned training event. Residents say if that's true, how were they able to record and photograph this?
They're all dressed up in their bulletproof vests, some of them saying police, and they're actually running scenarios where they take off from one spot, run around vehicles, shoot at targets, run around different obstacles.
When residents sent these pictures to Wilson County's codes and zoning, they issued Bird violation orders. The message?
You need to stop running a business if that's what you're doing.
Bird responded by stating the property has never been used for commercial use or hosted an event that was unsafe, reckless, or dangerous. But neighbors ask, how do you then explain the bullets on their properties?
Where about the family? I can tell you my elderly mother that lives right beside his property. We're afraid for her to be anywhere near the windows.
Residents say they have circulated a petition with nearly 300 signatures calling for a stop to Solaren using the property for commercial firearms training. Bird did agree to an interview earlier in our reporting, but backed out and continues to refuse to grant us an interview. But this afternoon, his lawyer sent us this statement, reading, "Our land use is legal, safe, and protected. We will fervently defend any attempts to interfere or infringe upon our rights of use." He also wrote in his affidavit to the county that he wants to host a meeting with neighbors to discuss their concerns. We will keep you posted on if the county takes any further action and if that meeting happens.
Okay, that is the sound that has neighbors in Wilson County on edge tonight, especially because they say bullets from a gun range on residential property is ending up outside their homes.
Yeah, what our chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley has uncovered tonight is raising all new questions about if neighbors were told the truth about the purpose of that gun range.
Tension between neighbors.
It's kind of like being in a war zone.
And the man who's opened a gun range on the residential property next door is bad. But what WSMV4 Investigates found, the gun range owner wrote on his Facebook page nearly a year ago, could make it worse, according to this councilwoman. So what do you take from this?
I mean, I take that he wasn't truthful in his affidavit in comparison to what he posted on his Facebook page.
Councilwoman Erin Evans, who, due to redistricting, will soon represent many of the neighbors around the gun range, is talking about this affidavit written by Jack Bird, who not only owns the gun range property, but also the security company Solaren. This year, when neighbors complained about hearing bullets flying through their properties and finding bullets near their homes, Byrd wrote this affidavit to Wilson County Codes and Zoning, not only saying the range has never had an unsafe, reckless, or dangerous event, but never hosted a sanctioned training event by any corporation or commercial entity. Neighbors dispute that, sharing video with the county of what they call tactical training at the gun range with a Solaren truck on site. But Byrd doubled down in his affidavit, writing it's never been used for commercial applications. Remember that when you read Byrd's Facebook post from June 22nd, 2022, writing that he was feeling pumped up. Quote, ground has been broken on Solaren's Special Operations Center that will house our training center firing range.
Do you think he's using this for commercial purposes?
I totally think he's using it for commercial purposes.
So WSMV4 Investigates reached out to Byrd's attorney, asking how can his client swear in an affidavit that the range has not been used for commercial purposes, but wrote on Facebook a year earlier calling it his company's Special Operations Center. Byrd's attorney wrote, Jack advises me the plans never materialized. But Councilwoman Evans says that post and seeing the video that the neighbors captured suggests the true purpose of that land hasn't been told.
Now, you may recall Wilson County Zoning issued Byrd violations last month, saying he was using the residential property for commercial purposes. Byrd denied that in an affidavit, and we are waiting to see if the county takes any further action. Back to you guys.
Well, Jeremy, you also told us earlier this month about an explosion at that very same gun range. Any idea yet what happened?
We're asking that too, Marius. All the sheriff's office will say is that they are continuing to investigate what caused that explosion on June 3rd and have interviewed several people. We will keep you posted as well on what we learned there. Back to you.
Tonight, new complaints about the company Solaren. That is the company accused of putting imposter police officers on Nashville streets. Now, we talked to a man who filed one of those complaints. He says the state agency that oversees security guards needs to take action. Now, we also found Solaren got in trouble 2 years ago for allowing someone to wear a security guard uniform who had never been trained. Our Jeremy Finley has more.
Sammy Allen says he had no choice 2 years ago but to turn these text messages over to the state.
I had to step in and put my foot down again just because I didn't want nothing bad to happen to her.
The longtime security officer says a female friend was posting pictures of herself in a security uniform at a bar while working for the company Solaren. He texts her about it. Take a look. She admits she's working security here. He writes back, when did you get your security license? She answers, He then says, you do realize that's a felony for impersonating a licensed officer. In the complaint, he cites the text, quote, Jack Byrd III knew she was unlicensed and that they kept scheduling her for security. Jack Byrd is the owner of Solaren, whose company is at the focus of a WSMV4 investigation, accused of hiring people who aren't licensed police officers, but wear police identification. Some are accused of also acting as police officers. But in this case, Allen says the company also allowed an unlicensed person to be identified as a security guard. The state ultimately fined them $250 in 2021 in a consent order. The document shows Solaren accepted the order to avoid formal charges. There's Byrd's signature accepting the fine.
When a company as big as Solaren gets out there and starts doing that, it's a big issue because then everybody else follows suit.
Now, 2 additional complaints have been filed with the state following our investigations into Solaren. We told you how the Davidson County District Attorney is reviewing a case in which police say Byrd picked up a gun from the scene of a deadly shooting, put the gun in his vest, and later brought it back to investigators. The new complaint reads that Byrd was wearing police identification at the time, showing this photo from security video, wearing a vest reading police, even though Byrd isn't a licensed police officer. And this additional complaint includes video of a car with multiple flashing lights. The complaint reading, Jack uses his blue and red lights on different occasions in different cars. He is making all of us look bad as security, and especially making the police look bad as well, by acting reckless and thinking that he's above the law. and him and his guys can do anything they want. I felt that I needed to report this, especially after what I saw on Channel 4.
Jeremy Finley reporting tonight. Now, we asked the DA's office about if Byrd broke the law by picking up that gun. A spokesman says they are reviewing it with Metro Police right now. And a few hours ago, Byrd himself emailed us here at Channel 4. He wrote in part, quote, "If a single shroud of truth," his words, "came from your reports, don't you think I would be held accountable?" End quote. Well, that will be for the state or the district attorney to decide.